Hi, Dustin. Good to see you. Long time no see. It's really nice to have you on our virtual festival. So, how are you at the moment in this pandemic times, in this really weird dystopic times?
Right? I don't know. On some level, I feel a little guilty because I'm oddly enough, even though it's a global calamity, I feel I've been doing pretty good. I'm out here in Ohio with my family. My brother and his sister-in-law and their newborn baby is also, I guess she's one now. She just had her first birthday. And I'm out here with my mom and my dad, and my other brother is out here with his family. So even though it seems, it could be a horrible time, I am looking at this opportunity to spend some time with my family. And at these times, at this age, you don't really get a chance to like really bond with the family. So I feel like it's a great opportunity.
That's very good to hear. So, indeed, it's a crisis, but we all I think we all see that we have some opportunities and we rethink a lot of things, how the world is going in general. And it's good to be with the families and if you have a family. So, so yes, good to see that you're healthy and that you're with your family. But what will happen with your academic work? With the you are. You are the assistant professor and deputy chair of design at Queen's College. Will you run the studies? Will students participate? Will you develop a kind of an online course for the students? I think a lot of people, teachers, professors at universities think about the way they can teach. What are your plans regarding teaching?
Well, that's a great question. Um, I hate to be Mr. Positivity here, but I was really impressed. I'm a relatively new professor. I've only been full time for 3 years, and I was doing adjunct for 3 years before that. And I was amazed to see how the academic community mobilized, how fast it was within minutes of the announcements that there was something going to happen in the city. There was calls, there was emails being sent, and within a week the entire system had been uprooted, put online, and reorganized. And we missed 1 week of class, and there was a Society of Animation Studies, there was education and animation. There was these groups that had forums, and like everybody was out there, like, what can we do with Zoom, what can we do with Google Meet, what can we do with with online, what can we do with Adobe, what can we do with all the seeing what was possible to move these classes online. And there was massive conversations happening. And when the smoke cleared a couple weeks later, I felt really honored to be a part of a community that was uh, that that intelligent and that mobile. It was just amazing to watch. And now we're almost at the end of the semester. Everything's shifted online, and animation is in a very unique position in that it can be done online. There's entire studios that happen in the virtual space. So to teach in a virtual space and to have the students in their modular kind of coming together uh, format, um, it was brilliant to watch and to be a part of. And whereas many jobs that felt like they had to be in a physical location, which academia we're like, I have to be in front of the students. I have to see their reactions. I have to be I have to be in the room with them. On some level, I still feel that way. There's something that's been lost in that. And that's that, those visual cues and those if I see a student's face is kind of blanking out and their body language goes down, I know that I need to like change my mode on some level. But I don't get those, but I'm figuring out workarounds. I'm making everybody turn on their cameras and I'm trying to figure out the way of like kind of giving that personal teaching experience in a virtual space.
Great to see that it's working. And for us as a festival, it was also a very strange situation because the festival is like really, it's a kind of a bubbly experience, people coming together, watching films together, but also we have to be very mobile and we had to invent ourselves in a new way, and we try our best and find new formats. And one is like this Zoom talk and on our online stream. Yeah, so we know each other for quite a while. We get in touch with your beautiful work, especially with the animation hotline, which we exhibited also in Stuttgart, and you have been in the jury. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about your work, because your work is not only for the screen, it's also kind of expanded animation work. You work with the space itself. Yeah, so maybe you can tell the spectators a little bit about your work, and we see some excerpts later.
Well, I think the two projects that I sent over, one was a project for the Intrepid Museum, and they had some oral history stories. And I think they saw the animation hotline, and they were kind of inspired by that. And they have hundreds of people that worked on this aircraft carrier, and they recorded their stories. They're getting older now. A lot of them were in World War II. A lot of them are passing away. So they recorded their stories, and I worked with a editor, like Sharon Mashihi. She does podcasting, and she cut the stories down from these hour-long recordings down to 2 minutes. And so the stories were pretty tight and pretty fun. And one of them is really not fun at all. It was about a Vietnam POW, and like his plane went down. So there's those, there's some tough stories, but it was great to work on that one. It was similar to Prayers for Peace, which I think that played in Stuttgart, I don't know, 10 years ago maybe. And it kind of had that talking about war vibe. It was all black and white with very minimal color. And then, so that was one of the projects that I think you guys have a copy of.
Well, I grew up in Santa Ana, Texas. My senior year, there was a guy there by the name of Wes Hayes.
She was in my class. I was always eyeing her, and so that's how it happened. We got married April the 3rd, 1943.
Then we got to thinking, and it should have been nice to have a baby. In case something happened to him, there would be something left of him on this land. So we had a baby.
Wes Jr., he was born August 4th, 1944.
And we sat and waited for letters.
Well, it didn't tell her anything about what we were doing so much. Might say we had a kind of a rough day today or something like that. I didn't want to worry her.
I picked up the Abilene paper one morning, and on the front of it, it said, "The Intrepid hit by kamikazes." I had no inkling that they were anywhere near there, so it wasn't easy. But finally, he said he would be coming home. Well, I drove to Dallas to meet him. When they came off the train, they started running, of course, to us. And Wes grabbed me, and I was holding Wes. I can hear that baby scream to this day. He didn't know who that man was. And then we went to the motel. We were going to stay there. Well, he wouldn't let Wes get 2 inches close to me. So finally, Wes had to go in the bathroom, shut the door, and close the light and sit there till I got him asleep. The next morning, they began to tolerate each other. And by the next day, they were just good old pals. They went and got a haircut.
There was another piece that I did that I was so excited about. It was about a wrench that was dropped in a missile silo. And they tell this, it was also a podcast, and they tell this story, it's Radio Diaries, tells this story about a wrench that was dropped in a podcast. And then they presented this story live. So we did 22 minutes of animation in 3 weeks, which it was a fun, we were like, okay, like it's go time. And the animation, from a purist animation perspective, it's like, oh, that's the worst animation in the world. But it was basically 50 stills, and we figured out what the stills were going to be, and then we just animated the transitions. We just drew one drawing to the next drawing to the next drawing, and we got 22 minutes done in 3 weeks. And it was because the animation wasn't supposed to be the foreground. The animation was supposed to be in the background while this live storyteller was telling the story. So the focus was really supposed to be on the storyteller, and then the animation was happening in the background. And yeah, it was such a good story and such a solid story. I didn't send that one to you because it was 22 minutes long, and that would be longer than our talk.
Yeah, now you are also working for a quite famous director, and you already have produced some kind of excerpts, or like for a feature film, I think, by Lars von Trier. I even don't know the title. Is it The House That Jack Built? Is it the title?
Right. Yes.
Okay. So that must be also quite interesting experience to work together with Lars von Trier. How does it come that he invites you to join his project?
Well, it was, I'm friends with one of the actors in the film, and we went out to dinner, and Matt told me, hey, I just read this script. It's amazing. It's a Lars von Trier script, and it's got animation in it. And I feel like the animation that you do would really work with this. So he showed Lars my work and was like, hey, he's an animator. He'll do a great job for this. So Lars had me send like a line reel, just showing some of my line work, and then he had me send, like, had me do like a 10-second test. And he was like, okay, this is great. Like, you can do we'll have you do this 1.5-minute chunk. And so I did that, and he loved that. So we did all the title sequences as well. So it was like, we kept doing a piece, and then he was like, all right, great. Like, let's do more. So it was kind of, as far as like an animator, you're like, oh, like sometimes you're working in a bubble, and you're like, you like something, but you're like, I don't know if this is any good or not. So it was kind of like, it felt good to have him like saying, yeah, I like it. It works, it works for what we're doing. And so we ended up doing a big chunk.
Great. And now I think we will see also an excerpt or the whole kind of a short film, which is part of the film. So thanks, Dustin, for talking with me. A new situation, the digital situation, but it's really nice to be in touch with you and to learn more about your situation. And yes, I think animators are a little bit privileged at the moment. You're right. They can still work, they can concentrate, they can contemplate. So therefore it's good that we bring something back to society, our art, and help the people to go through these difficult times. Thanks very much, Dustin. Greetings to your family in Ohio, and hopefully we see each other in Stuttgart again.
Great. Well,
Bye.
thank you so much for asking me. Have a great day.
Imagine a man walking down a street underneath the street lamps. Right under a light, his shadow is the densest, but also the tiniest. Then when he starts to move, his shadow grows in front of him. The shadow becomes bigger and bigger while it thins out. And the shadow behind him from the next lamppost emerges and becomes shorter and shorter until it reaches its ultimate density as the man stands directly underneath the light. Let's say that the man standing underneath the first lamppost is me when I've just committed a murder. I feel strong and content. I start to walk, and the shadow in front of me grows bigger, like my pleasure. But at the same time, pain is on its way, represented by the shadow behind me from the next lamppost. And at the midpoint between the lampposts, the pain is so great, it outweighs my pleasure. And with every step forward, pleasure dissolves, and pain intensifies behind me. Finally, the pain is so unbearably intense that I have to act. So when I reach the point with the next lamp in zenith, I will kill again.
I know you want to be someone special, Jack. But let's face it, this illustration can be used for any addict's tale of woe. The alcoholic empties the bottle at the zenith, etc., etc. But what about the family?